guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make liquid drum and bass. This video has been requested a ton by you guys, and as always, you can get the full project file and samples and MIDI and presets. Everything from this video is available right at the top of the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, it's already available. And yeah, let's get going. So, this loop you heard in the intro, we're at 174 BPM, pretty standard BPM for this style of stuff. And the first sound we have here is this little viola thing, which sounds like this. So here's the MIDI on this one. What's happening is it's actually just playing this C sharp minor thing where it's going C sharp, so the root note, E, the minor third, B, which is actually the minor seventh, because you can see it's 2 notes down from C sharp, and then we go to G sharp, which is the fifth. So it's just this kind of like nice minor sounding melody. And so the idea with this one is, you know, with this style, and I'll talk about this more once I get to the actual sound, with this style, you're not really going to use like a super synthy lead. Like, we're not going to use like a saw wave lead here. You know, it's typically more organic kind of live sounds like this. So that's where the idea of this comes in. But then the other thing is, typically if you have a lead in this style of track, you know, you're not going to just have it playing like a long melody. It's usually going to be something kind of repetitive and simple like this, that then when you play it with the bass line, you get that movement just based on how they kind of play off of each other. So yeah, again, it just plays those same notes the whole way through. For the sound with this one, like I said, it is this viola section staccato thing here. So the staccato gives you that like bow, 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 bow. You know, it's quick and intense. It's not like some kind of chill background strings. This is very like straight up and in your face in this mix. After the viola section thing here, you can see we just have this echo and this reverb. So yeah, just got a little bit of echo giving it some space, a bit of reverb giving it some space. You see the echo's on the ping pong setting, so it's a lot more stereo. Here's without these. And then with them, so you can hear they really help to kind of just give it that like more spacey sort of sound, as you can hear. After that, we have a bit of drum. As you can see, this is up pretty high, so here's without this. And then with it, so you can hear what it's doing. It's just giving it that more raw, like in-your-face sort of sound. It makes it sound a little bit more like a sample this way as well. You know, drum and bass is built on sampling, and it's not really meant, you know, like if you make a lead like this, you have to kind of do stuff like this to make it sound more like a sample. Just by giving it some crunch, and also this transient knob here is compressing it nicely. Here's without this. And then with it, so you can hear that makes it a lot more like, bow, bow, like really hitting. And yeah, after that we have this auto pan. So this is kind of adding to that sort of sampled, moving sort of sound. Here's without this. So what's happening here is this is actually not doing any panning. The phase is on 0, so it's just affecting the volume. I've got it on the saw wave, and then it's inverted, so it's going up. And what's happening is I have this on a bar. So since this pattern happens basically like each note is a half note in length, you can see that long, and it being a half note refers to it being half the length of a bar. So what's happening here is by putting this little volume rising thing on that's happening every bar, you can hear it's adding a bit more kind of intensity to it, because now you're not just getting dun 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 dun, you're getting dun 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 dun, like that. Like it's like every second note hits a little bit harder, so it's just kind of a nice trick to give it some depth, and also just kind of fit it into the beat too. You know, keep in mind, like, you don't want anything that's going to be too ambient. You need it to still kind of fit into the rhythm of everything that's happening in the track. So that's the idea behind that. And then finally, we just have a high pass filter cutting out the low end, sort of cleaning it up a bit, and that is it for this viola. After that, we have the pad, which sounds like this. So here are the notes on this one. It's just the C sharp minor chord where you can see, yeah, we just have C sharp, the root note, E the minor third, and then G sharp, the fifth. And then what's happening here is I've added in a C sharp up top, so just the root note again, and then we have this F sharp, which is just in between E and G sharp. So you're getting kind of a more uneasy sound from that F sharp. If I turn that off, and then again with it, getting that and what it's doing is it's not only, giving it more sort of mood and vibe, but also, it's just adding texture to the sound. Again, a lot of times the pads in drum and bass are sampled. Like, a lot of times it's literally just sampled from, like, an old jungle track or an old rave track or something like that. So you want to do stuff like this when you're making them from scratch that just kind of gives it more, like, musical texture, so to speak, and more depth and vibe, like I said. For the sound with this one, it's made with operators, so this is an FM pad. What we have here is we have this sound. You can hear actually a pretty intense FM sound. It's just 3 sine waves, but when you do FM with 3 sine waves at different octaves like this, obviously you get that more metallic, kind of raw sound. You can see I've got them detuned a little bit, and then what's happening is it's going into a low pass. And then we get this super deep, almost sine wave-esque sound, but it's got more texture to it, and it's a little bit more interesting. And then what's happening after that is I have an LFO, which is moving the filter frequency, and then the volume of oscillator B. So if I turn off the filter, you can hear that. How it's like kind of opening and closing like that. That's what that is with the volume of oscillator B, and then it's also doing that on the filter here. And yeah, then after that, we just have a bit of chorus to kind of make the sound a bit bigger, a bit of reverb as well. Pretty standard fare when you're making a pad sound. And then we have this audio effect track. And so what this is it's the Haas effect. This is an effect which allows you to spread a sound out much more efficiently and make it really wide. What's happening here is we are basically just taking the sound, splitting it into the left and right signal. And then you can see on the right ear, it doesn't matter which one you do this on, but on the right ear, we've delayed it forward using this delay here. You can see I have no feedback, dry wet's all the way up, and then we have this at 10 milliseconds. So it's literally just pushing everything in the right ear on this sound over 10 milliseconds. And this is how you get this wide effect, is because you have the left ear happening at the regular time, the right ear happening 10 milliseconds later, and thus it spreads the sound out. I'll show you, here's without this. And then with it. So obviously, it makes it quite a bit wider. And what this really helps with too is like, you need something to be kind of wide, like in this mix. Like if we just have this all straight down the center, if I turn off this Haas effect, a lot of these mid-range things are kind of in the same place. But if we turn this on, now we have this one standing out a bit more because it's not fighting for that same space right down the center. And it can kind of stand out a bit more on its own. Yeah, so a good way to add depth to your mix. Then finally, we just have a high pass filter cutting out the low end, and that's it for the pad. After that, we have this grand piano, which sounds like this. So what this is it is literally just Ableton's grand piano, like the one that comes with Ableton, and then what I've done here is I've reversed it. So I bounced it out. I'll show you. I think I can go in here. So if we take this and reverse it, I bounced out literally just this chord. So it's the same chord that the pad is playing. It's the exact same MIDI. And then what I've done here is I've reversed it. And we've got it just kind of like building up for 2 bars. And then it restarts. So this is a really great way to add some movement. If you listen to this track without this, this might be like the more chill part, like maybe this is the outro or something. But then once we add this pad in, or this piano, you can see how it really emphasizes those chord changes by having this thing kind of like like swell up like that. So it's a really great technique. I definitely recommend, you know, taking pianos like this and just reversing them, and maybe you can make it one bar. Like maybe it could just be that. But it just gives you like a really nice element where it's not just gonna be a nice pad, but it's gonna be a nice pad that's also adding to the intensity and the dynamics of the overall track, with it kind of fading in and out like that. And yeah, and then the only things with this one is we just got a little bit of reverb to give it some space, a bit of drum bus to fatten it up a bit, make it a bit stronger, and then finally just a high pass filter. And yeah, that's it for the piano. After that we have the kick, which is 2 layers, and it sounds like this. So what's going on here is we just have 2 kicks. I'll play you the original 2 kicks. It's this one, and then this one. So you can see this first one has a nice low end to it, but I wasn't crazy about the highs. And the second one had nice highs, but I wasn't crazy about the low end. So I just layered them together here, and the way that I've done this is, you can see we have an EQ3 on both of these, and on the first one you can see I've just got it soloing the lows, and then on the second one it's soloing the mids and highs. And what's happening here is, because now the crossover frequency is going to be the same, the frequency where the mids and highs cut off is the same as the frequency where the lows cut off on this kick. So now you can just play them together, and there you go, it's a whole new kick, and you get the best of both, because again, like, the highs in this one are really nice, and it has a nice punch to it. It just doesn't have the low end, and this one has a really nice low end, but not quite the high end, so you can just layer them together and problem solved. And then I just have a little bit of drum bus on each of them, you can see. And yeah, pretty simple, really. Like, this is done a lot in this style of music. There's a lot of layering to make your own drum samples inside of drum and bass. I definitely recommend trying this with, like, you know, different sounds, maybe different kicks you hear in a sample pack, maybe some kicks that you sampled from a track. Maybe you just want to play with these. Links to these is in the description. But yeah, layering your drums together for yourself can help you to really make, like, some powerful sounds. And I'll also just say, like, it's also, in this case, about, like, the style of sample you choose, you know. And in this style, you don't want, like, a long kick. You want something shorter and fatter like this that just hits nicely underneath the bass. And yeah, and then after that, we have the bass line, which sounds like this. So here's the MIDI. You can see it's a pretty simple sort of walking down bass line. Just in the key of C sharp minor, you can see, like, we got C sharp, the root note, E, the minor third, another E, A, which is just 1 note up from the 5th, and F sharp there. So yeah, just kind of like all notes that are in this key. Pretty simple. The thing I'll have you keep in mind though with this is, like, with this style, a lot of times I've noticed the bass line is where the chord changes are happening, and then, you know, you might just have like a pad and a lead over it. But the bass is really where these, like, chord changes are happening, and that's what's moving it along. So that's why we have, like, the pad and the piano and the viola just playing one thing the whole way through. With the bass line is so dynamic. That's the idea. For the sound with this one, it's 2 layers. So we just have a respace, and then the sub bass underneath it. So the respace is analog. You can see just 2 saw waves going into a low pass amp on flip set like that. Bit of unison, a bit of chorus, and then it's being high passed at the end. And then we're layering that with the sub, which is just this operator patch, which is really just a sine wave. But then it's got a little bit of FM from the second sine wave here. And yeah, the idea behind this is, like, the respace on its own would be pretty fat and have a pretty nice low end, but you can hear the sub, for one, is mono, so now we get the mid bass in stereo and the sub bass right down the center. But also, I think it's just, like, a lot fatter if you have one dedicated bass doing the mids and one dedicated bass doing the lows. So yeah, and then on those together, I just have a bit of drum bus to glue them together a bit. You know, kind of makes it sound more like one bass and makes it fatter. And then I have this EQ here, which is just cutting at 100 hertz, boosting the lows a bit. And then I have the kick and bass in a group together as well, which is a bit of saturation and a slight low boost. Here's with nothing. And then with everything, so you can hear, you know, just helps to make the kick and the bass line glued together a little bit better. It makes the low end a bit more cohesive. And yeah, it also helps to glue the two separate kick layers together too, to put them through the saturation at the same time. And yeah, after that we have the percussion, which sounds like this. So this is really simple. It's just 3 main layers. I think when you're listening to a lot of these kind of tracks, it can be tempting to make it way too busy. Like, I've had this problem in the past trying to make this style where it's like, you know, you want to have a rim shot and a drum break and a tambourine and a hi-hat and all these different things. The best thing you can do for yourself when you're making these kind of percussions is keep it as simple as possible and just move forward. So you can see here we just have, like I said, 3 simple layers. Fat, powerful, bright tambourine. You can see this is going through a bit of drum bus and a bit of EQ to make it a bit sharper. And then I also have it side chained to the rim shot just so it doesn't clash. So that's the first layer. Again, just really simple, you know, doing all that high-end percussion. You don't need anything else when you have that. After that, we have this break chop. So that's just doing that. This is just sampled from an old drum break, and then you get that. And then we have the rim shot, which is just like your standard fat liquid drum and bass rim shot. And again, it's important not to overthink this. You know, once you get a nice fat rim shot, maybe put a bit of saturation on it. And don't try to do too much. This is another layer where I notice people doing too much. Like, a lot of times people want to layer in, like, a, you know, punchy snare with the rim shot, with a clap, with all this crazy stuff. Again, just keep it simple, you know. Really nice, fat, powerful samples. And that's really all you need. And then on the group, I just have a bit of drum bass and a slight high-end boost with an EQ. So here's without those. And then with them. So again, even these aren't doing that much. You know, when you have really good samples, you don't need to do too much to it. But yeah, we just got the drum bass kind of gluing it all together, making everything a little bit harder hitting. And the EQ is just for that slight high-end boost, mostly for the tambourine. And there it is. So that's it for the percussion, and that is also going to be it for this video, guys. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments, guys. I've never done a drum and bass video before, and I'm trying to do things where, you know, it's not just an artist name on it, but it's more my ideas and then me just kind of explaining them to you guys. So let me know what you guys thought of this. I'd love to do more of these, or just go back to the old style if you guys don't like these. So yeah, as usual, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, every single thing in this video. It's available right at the top of the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there, because it's already available. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.